Good morning, everyone. I'm Tara Gillam, Services Innovation Manager at Business West, and welcome to our autumn webinar and thought leadership series, Innovate 2021, Overcoming Challenges and Building for Growth, supported by Business West and Innovate UK. This series of webinars is running every Tuesday morning throughout the autumn, covering topics from IP, design thinking, funding and finance, leadership strategy and sales and marketing, as well as promoting the wider bespoke support available from us and how we can add value to you for your future growth plans in this challenging environment. Today is our 8th webinar in this series and the second of 2 webinars covering marketing. Today's webinar is titled Targeted Leads and Measurable Results, Social Media Strategies that Deliver, and is delivered by one of our expert advisors, Matt Young. As part of Innovate 2021 and subject to Innovate UK eligibility criteria, there is the opportunity to access our comprehensive range of business support services, which includes marketing advice. I will discuss the next steps and how to access these services at the end of the session. Now, before I hand you over to Matt, there is just a bit of housekeeping I'd like to talk you through. If you have any questions that you'd like to pose to Matt at the end of the session through the Q&A session, please do that in the Q&A button at the bottom. That will be moderated throughout. If you have any concerns or challenges through the webinar, please raise your hand and one of our moderators will come and support you. If you want to communicate with the other attendees, please use the chat feature. This webinar is being recorded for on-demand services. Your personal video and microphone will not be used unless invited to speak by the host. Now on to today's speaker. With 10 years experience working in social media, Matt Young has seen it all. He has written social media strategies for large companies that have never had a social media account before and helped sole traders who just need a little support. Matt has a background in sales and broadcasting, selling everything from cars to mobile phones and fire extinguishers. His broadcasting career saw him host radio shows across the south of the UK, from Kent to Cornwall. Matt prides himself on communication and understanding how human beings work, which lies at the core of talking to people via social media accounts. So without further ado, I'll put you in the capable hands of Matt.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, let's get everything going this morning. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's well. And I'm here today to talk to you about targeted leads and measurable results, social media strategies that deliver. So obviously we're going to do quite a bit of theory today, but I'll give you some real life experiences, some real life stories, actual stuff that's happened as well. But we'll go as deep as we possibly can in the limited amount of time that we have. You appreciate that writing strategies for organizations can take days and days and days, but let's try and give you something so that you can get started. So creating a strategy, that's the first thing you should do. And what I mean by that, and strategy is a very all-encompassing word, but I want you to think about that from a terms of, what do you want to achieve with your strategy, okay? And we're specifically talking about not just an overall marketing strategy, but your social media strategy. Now, I'm full of cheesy photos, so be prepared for that throughout the whole presentation. And of course, these slides will be available with the attached notes afterwards as well. So I'm more than happy for you to have those. So yes, goals. We need goals to attain. And this comes back to an age-old marketing adage, which is about having SMART goals, and that's the S-M-A-R-T. So creating that strategy it enables you to establish your objectives and your goals. Without the goals, basically you have no way of measuring the success that you're trying to achieve or the return on the investment, and that investment being your time and of course the money you're going to spend putting into this. So just to go back to that SMART analogy, in case you don't know it, please do Google it. It is all over the internet. But SMART stands for S, which is specific, measurable is the M, A, attainable, R, relevant, and T, time bound. I would be surprised if you've not heard of that before, but I just wanted to say that it doesn't just refer to the overall marketing thing. You can bring those SMART goals back to just looking at your social media side of things. And I want to emphasize this, is that, social media can seem as a bit of an add-on at times, but you put all sorts of time and effort into writing a business plan. When you started your business, you have a marketing strategy, you've probably got your profit and loss forecast, all that kind of stuff. Well, why wouldn't you do that with your social media as well? And you do need to find time for this stuff, and we'll mention time several times throughout today's presentation, but we have to find some time to do this stuff. Just waking up in the morning and thinking, right, I'll put some stuff out on Twitter and that will be successful. I mean, sometimes it is, and if you're doing that, fantastic, but having a plan in place is absolutely vital. So first and foremost, we need to figure out who our audience is, okay? So it's about creating those personas. Knowing who your audience is and what they want to see on social media is the absolute key. Now, that is difficult, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying right now you should understand that from the start. We will have to do some testing to figure this stuff out. But if you have that idea, you can then start to create the content that they're going to obviously like, hopefully comment on, and ultimately share with their friends as well. Because if they're sharing that stuff, it's free reach for you. You're getting put in front of other people. So we've got to make that content that we're creating shareable. And how do we do that? By understanding the people that we're sharing that with. It's also critical if you want to turn social media followers into customers for your business as well, because we need to understand who we're talking to. So, what kind of language will you use? Is it a younger demographic? Are they more senior? I deal with lots of different businesses, you heard in the intro. So, large corporations down to sole traders. I've got a lady who does tarot cards that I speak to on a fairly regular basis. And, giving her advice is very different to giving a Fortune 500 business advice, for example. So, you have to adapt. So you have to understand who your customer is. The basics really are things like understanding their age. Now, I literally spoke to someone about this yesterday, and I said, who is your customer? And they said, anybody with a checkbook, which tells you more about their age than anything else. But yeah, I understand that we have this vast range, but create a persona. Tell them, or tell yourself, that they are this age. They might live in a certain location. Understand their income. Have they got any disposable income? Is your business, is the thing that you do, if it's B2B or if it's B2C, have they got that money to spend with you? Understand what their job is, maybe the industry they work in, and even the interests that they might have outside of work. Okay. Now, you've probably heard this kind of scenario before, but it's really vital, because if you have the picture of that person that you're talking to when you put your social media content together, it allows you to create it around that persona. So it's really, really important that we do that kind of stuff. The other thing we need to do is, of course, look at our competition. Who are we up against? And the best thing you can do is identify who that is and look at what they're doing. Carry out an audit on the output that they put out on social media, okay? Now, you'll get a good sense of what's expected within your industry, which will help you set your social media targets of your own, okay? Now, this might be someone that you aspire to be like. It might be a direct competitor. It might be someone who it could be a smaller business than you, but actually they've better established on their social media account. So, carry out an audit, go and see what they're doing. It will also help you spot opportunities. So maybe one of your competitors particularly is dominant on Facebook, but has put very little effort into maybe Twitter or Instagram or something like that. So you might want to focus on those networks where your audience is potentially underserved, rather than trying to win fans away from a dominant player on a platform like Facebook, for example. Now, we'll get onto this later, but of course, your client, your persona who we've just dealt with, they might be a specifically Facebook user. So, don't waste time over on Twitter if you think that actually my user isn't going to be doing that. But look at what other people are doing. And I'm not for 1 second saying copy it, replicate it, but learn from what they're doing. And, all of their posts are going to be public. So that gives you the opportunity to just simply scroll down. And again, time, we've got to spend some time doing this. But go and look at the output they're putting out there. There are several tools in the market that you could use to measure this stuff. And they're paid tools, and they can be very, very intelligent tools. But actually just going and spending 10 minutes looking down their Facebook profile, do the same on Twitter, do the same on Instagram, and just look at the content they're putting out. Look at the kind of reaction they get to it. Are people commenting on it? Are they sharing it? All this information is available publicly, so you can go and look at that stuff. So do go and carry out an audit on your competition or your perceived competitors and see exactly what they're doing. Learn from that. You can also learn what they don't do so well. And guess what? That gives you the opportunity to then do that better than they're doing. But also learn from their mistakes. And definitely, just to reiterate, do not copy, because if you're just going to put out the same kind of content, you're not going to stand out from the crowd. At a meeting yesterday with a brand new client, they're a charity, and they said, here's our Christmas campaign. And they asked me, what do you think of it? And I said, do you really want me to be honest? And they said, yes, we do. There's 4 people sat in the room with me. And I said, it looks the same as every other person's output, every other charity's output. We need to create something that's going to make you stand out from the rest, because at this current time, charities are really suffering. So again, just an example for you, don't try and replicate what your competitors are doing. Try and do something that stands out and will make you stand out amongst that audience. The other thing you need to do, and you need to audit yourself, okay? Not fun, okay? But if you're already using social media, take a stock of your efforts so far and be brutally honest with yourself. You don't have to share this with anybody else, but be brutally honest. Ask yourself some questions like, okay, what am I doing that is working? But more specifically, what am I doing that's not working, okay? And guess what? Stop doing that. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. It's an age-old, I'm full of sayings like that. I do apologize, but that's one of my favorite ones. You have to try and do something a bit different, because if you're just doing the same stuff, it's not going to make any change. Who's engaging with you already? Have a look at that. Do a little bit of a deep dive. If you've got someone on Facebook that likes your content, guess what? You can dive in there, have a look at the kind of person they are. If they've got lots of stuff that's public on social media, it's not being creepy. It's you carrying out that little bit of social media research, that audience research. Find out who they are. We share so much, generally speaking, on social media, that you can find out who that person is. That will also feed back into you creating that persona as well. So make sure you find out who's engaging with you, who is your typical kind of client or person who follows you on your social media channels. Which networks does your target audience use? Really, really important, okay? I'm talking to people about TikTok at the moment, which as a man of mature years, I'm figuring out for myself. I'm creating, and don't worry, again, someone else said this to me yesterday, are you dancing in front of a camera? I'm definitely not doing that, but I am putting together videos and testing them on my own platforms, because, for example, I've got a client that lets student properties. This is the time of the year now where we're in, where they choose their properties for the next academic year, so 21-22. So I'm advising them to go on to social media on the TikTok platform, because that's where their audience are. Okay, so it's understanding who your audience is and then what platforms they're going to be using. You have to go where they are. They're probably not going to come to you. Now, how does your social media presence compare to your competition? We've already looked at them. Be ruthless with yourself. Be really, really honest. Look at what you're doing. Look at what they're doing. Is their branding better than yours? Are you standing out? Are you consistent across all of your platforms? If someone finds you on Twitter, will they recognize you from Facebook? Those sort of things. Just make sure you have a really good, constant presence. I mean, potentially you're working on branding with your own business. Your website is probably branded. Why would you not carry that across into your social media channels as well? Once you collect all that information together, you'll then be ready to start thinking about ways that you can potentially improve that as well. Here's the big question for you. Would you follow you? And I've asked myself that question for years and years and years. I've been working in social media for 10 years, since 2010. And you have to make sure that you're interesting enough to your clients. Otherwise, why would they follow you? You have to give them a reason. You're trying to take up some of their time. So you have to make sure that you're adding value to them. So ask yourself that question. Would you follow you? Now, you may already be set up on social media, you may not, but it's at this point we should be deciding which networks we're going to use, okay? You'll also need to define the strategy for each one. They're slightly different. You know, Instagram is a younger demographic, TikTok younger still. Facebook and Twitter, roughly the same sort of age. The younger people, they have Facebook accounts, okay, but they're not very active on there because they're more active on other places. So it's just understanding that a little bit better. Now, if you have those profiles, you need to make sure that you fill out those profiles and all the fields that entails, okay? So your bio, make sure you put as much information in there as possible. They limit the space, okay? But make sure that you get across who you are and how you can help somebody in your bio. Again, we mentioned it in the last slide, making sure you've got your branding set up correctly. Have the same logo across all the sites. And if you get the opportunity to put in an image at the background as well, that again needs to match across your various social media sites. So make sure that's all working. Include keywords that people might be searching for to find your business, okay? So you can have that. So if you're working in accountancy, make sure you have the word accountants or accountancy in your profile. It may well be in your name, but if it's in your profile as well, there are two opportunities for you to be found out, if you like, for that particular word. So make sure you're using those keywords in your bio. I've already mentioned using that consistent branding. Make sure you do it across all your networks. And please use high quality images, okay? There are a plethora. Just Google social media sizes or something like that, and you will get the specific sizes of the profile images and the background images that you need. Make sure those are really good. There's a great platform, a great website called Canva, which is canvas without the S, and it allows you to do some very basic graphic design. But it does also give you templates for the Facebook profile picture, the Facebook advert, the Facebook post, so you can find out which size you need to do. And because there's nothing worse than going to someone's profile and seeing a blurry picture as their logo, or it's cropped out some of the words that may be written across the bottom. I know it's not really reflecting on your business. You may be brilliant at what you do, but that is going to be someone's first impression. So if that's on your profile right now, make a note right now. When you finish this, go and prepare the right size images in good quality, because that gives you that first impression. And again, cheesy, but you only get one opportunity to make a first impression. Okay, you need to be inspired. While it's important that your brand be unique, you can still draw inspiration from other businesses that are great on social media. So go and have a good look around and dream big. And I mean that. I mean, go and look at the guys that you aspire to be like. Go and look at the people that have budgets to create brilliant stuff and just learn from them. Look for some social media success stories. You can usually find these on the business section of a social media website. So go to Facebook and look at their social media stories. They will tell you of businesses that have succeeded because of using Facebook. Of course they would, because they want to tell you how you could do that too by using their platform. Let's make no mistakes. They want you on their platform so they can sell advertising, okay? I'm not naive enough to not think that. But actually, it's looking at those campaigns that other organizations have put together on social media and learning from them. Why is it that that campaign worked so well? What did it pluck on the heartstrings? Did it just come across as an absolute bargain? You know, go and have a look at what your favorite brands are doing on social media, and hopefully you can draw some inspiration from that as well, okay? Now, you need to help yourself by creating a calendar for your social media output. So a content calendar. Sharing great content, I think it goes without saying, is absolutely essential, but it's equally important to put this plan in place, okay, for when to share the content to get the maximum impact. So we have 100 people on this call today, and you probably all have varying different businesses. So it's really difficult for me to sit here and say, if you do X, you'll get Y. And anybody in the world of social media that says they can do that, I'm calling them out now, they're lying, okay? But have an idea. If you, for example, work in the holiday industry, you'll know that you have seasons where people come and stay. You've got the shoulder seasons as well. So that season, the bit just before and just after it gets busy. So have specific content planned for those organizations, for that kind of output, to make sure that you're not missing on these opportunities, okay? Don't forget, your calendar needs to account for the time you spend interacting with your audience as well. You may have heard this before, and I'm going to repeat it. It's social media, okay? We have to give time to spend on these platforms, all right? And I mean that, you know, necessarily during the day, and actually if it's your business and you really want to help it grow, in the evenings as well. Because we know a platform like Facebook is very busy in the evenings. If you can be on there responding to people and answering questions, asking questions, that kind of stuff, it's absolutely vital. You have to find some time to do this stuff, but making sure you have a calendar in place. Okay, so here we are sitting in November. Hopefully anybody that's working in retail or they're selling to consumers is thinking about, or at least potentially launched, a Christmas campaign. You want to be thinking about that Christmas campaign during summer. So have that content calendar in place. It sits very nicely alongside your marketing strategy, but have the idea of, okay, I'm going to be talking about this item in the run up to Christmas. There's Black Friday coming up. What kind of content can you think about producing, or can you get the ball rolling on to make sure that content is there and ready, rather than you wake up on Black Friday morning and go, right, let's get some stuff together. I don't know about you, but that makes me break out in a cold sweat. So I'm going to have that stuff planned in advance. A posting schedule, really, really vital. I'm telling you to spend some time on there, but equally, we can also spend some time scheduling content, okay? There are some numerous really good free tools that you can do this with, something like Hootsuite or something like Buffer, and you can actually sit and plan out a whole week's worth of content. Schedule it in there and it will post on your behalf. It means you don't have to physically be there and do it, because I want you to sometimes think about posting stuff first thing in the morning. Because generally speaking, and I'm guilty of this, we lean over the bedside cabinet, we pick up our phone and we start to scroll through it. If you're going to put content out there, that's when you're going to have a captive audience. So think about those scheduling times. Think about testing what sort of times you get the best kind of engagement from your audience. And don't be afraid to think about the evenings and weekends as well. But you may be specifically B2B, and people don't want to see stuff about you on Facebook at 9 o'clock in the evening. So, you know, you can put that content out during the day as well. But absolutely test. I cannot sit here and tell you by putting it out at 3 minutes past 8 on a Saturday morning that you'll get your best stuff, because your audience is completely unique to you. So you have to start to test to figure this stuff out. But put a plan in place, have a schedule, and tweak it as you go along. And you need to kind of think about your content mix as well. We'll get onto the different types of content in just shortly. But you need to think about, you know, what stuff is reacting the best. And this is what we have to think about. Okay, I'm going to put pictures out, I'm going to put a photo out, and I'm going to put it out 8 o'clock in the morning, midday, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Potentially a similar kind of photo you share, and you work out when that hits the best. Did it work better at that 5 o'clock in the afternoon slot? If it does, maybe we think about more specific towards images at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, quite theoretical, but you'd need to test this stuff to actually see if it's going to work for you. And guess what we need to do then? We need to measure, and we need to adjust, okay? So your social media strategy is a hugely important document for your business, and you mustn't assume that you're going to get it right first time. It doesn't work like that. If you do, you're a genius. Please, I can give you a job. But, you know, we need to kind of do some pivoting. We need to do some movement. As you start to implement your plan, you can track those results, and you may find that some of the strategies don't work as well as you had potentially anticipated, because we all think we know our customers, but actually they react slightly differently. Others are working even better than expected. You know, those ones that you think, oh, well, I'll just do that kind of content as well. And then all of a sudden that's the one that really goes potentially viral. So you need to make sure that you're measuring what you're doing in your strategy, and we need to adjust that strategy as we go forward. Right, connecting with your audience. Now, the simplest way to do this, I'm just going to have a sip of tea, excuse me. The simplest way to do this is to start to ask them questions. You may have an international audience, but us British people, we love it when people ask us questions. And guess what? We tend to answer those questions. So ask people's opinions and their thoughts about certain things. It may get a bit of a debate going on your social media channels, I would suggest that's not the worst thing in the world, but you need to moderate that kind of stuff. You know, that could go a little bit crazy at times, but if they're talking on there and they're communicating, they're engaging with you, some of their friends are going to see that stuff as well. And if you've got a demographic that you have in mind, we've already thought about personas, it's likely that their friends are from a similar demographic. So that's no bad thing. But once you start to get that feedback from your audience, you can again allow that to inspire your output. And they might start suggesting other things. They might start talking about other things. And that, again, can help you to change a little bit, and you can implement the new stuff that you've learned. The other thing about that is customer service. These tools are brilliant for customer service in a good and a bad way. Okay, it gives people the opportunity to say some pretty horrible things at times, but actually it does give the people the opportunity to really sing your praises at the same time. But a bad customer review gives you the chance of solving that problem as well, and quite quickly, because you're going to have your notification set up. Someone says something negative about you, you jump on that. There may be a really legitimate reason why that is the case, and we can figure that one out straight away. Brilliant. There may be something that's a little bit further, a little bit deeper, but actually at that point, and this is not in the presentation, but I've just thought about it, I use a scenario called AIR, okay, A-I-R, and that's acknowledge, investigate, and respond. But take that response off of social media. You're not going to win a slanging match backwards and forwards between a disgruntled customer. And you can tend to tell if they're really not going to let go of that bone, okay? So try and get a phone number, try and get an email address, and take that stuff offline. But acknowledge their complaint. We've seen your complaint. Let's have a look at it. Do the investigation. They might be absolutely right. You might have dropped the ball. Or they may be absolutely wrong, but then you can take that offline. Don't try and get into a to and fro conversation on your social media channels unless you're absolutely brilliant. I've seen some really good examples of restaurants and stuff like that where the owner's given them both barrels online. Hey, it's your business, you can do what you want, but you know, if you want to be a little bit risk averse, take that stuff offline. Give them a look behind the scenes, okay? We're human beings. We're a little bit, well, we're quite nosy, and we want to find out stuff. So as long as you feel okay about doing that, make sure you can give them a little bit a look behind the scenes and allow them to glimpse, because I guarantee you they'll want to find out a little bit more. So if you can talk about staff, if your staff are okay about that, if you're making something, show them how you get, what the process is about making that. You know, there's all sorts of stuff that you could kind of give them a little bit of a, you know, is your hobby relevant to your business, or have you turned your hobby into this business? There's all sorts of things where you can kind of give people a little bit of a glimpse from the back. So I think that's a good thing to do. You have to feel comfortable yourself in doing it. Now, it's not all business as well. You need to share the lighter side of life. There'll be some topical content. I mean, what could we possibly be talking about at the moment? Of course, there's lots of stuff. I'm a bit risk averse when it comes to politics and religion, and I would recommend most of my clients steer clear of that kind of stuff. But if your business is based in that and you have some strong beliefs, then by all means back them up on social media. But be prepared for people that don't share those beliefs with you. You know, they could come with some quite vicious opinions of their own. So just be careful about that one. And then trying to connect with your audience, try and be as original as possible. If someone thinks you're repurposing someone else's content, boy, oh boy, they'll be quick to point it out, okay? And it happens all the time. Don't get me wrong, it happens all the time. And I've definitely been guilty of sharing. I saw a funny meme, oh, I'm going to share that on my channel. And then I've had someone jump on my channel going, I shared that on my channel. Why are you stealing content? And I'm like, well, you probably stole it too. But be careful about that kind of stuff, okay? If you can come up with original content, you see a good idea, create a similar idea around the one that you spotted. Don't just take that post or that meme or that GIF and share it on your channels, because people, like I say, will be very swift to point it out. Now, creating content. This is the be all and end all. This is the sort of stuff that you really want to know about, I assume. And I've put this slide in there just because it really does need to be a very visual thing. Now, there are some statistics out there, specifically looking at LinkedIn, where LinkedIn posts that are text only tend to do a little bit better than posts with videos or images attached to them. So think about that. But I would generally say an image goes much better. Why? Because as human beings, time is tight. We might be scrolling through. And if I scroll through and just see a bunch of text, I'm probably not going to be drawn towards it as much as I am as if I see an image. So images work really, really well. Images, videos, infographics, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's quite a visual platform, or these platforms are quite visual, specifically something like Instagram, where you have to put an image with it. So it goes without saying. And the other thing I want you to think about when you think about creating content is about mobile, okay? Most people, and I say most, I've done some research about this, and they'll say that worldwide, 40% of the population who are on social media will look at social media via a mobile device. And I say device because they'll be looking at it potentially not just on a mobile phone, that could be on a tablet as well. The stats for America and the UK are higher, they're 60%. So, and I would suggest that Instagram is going to be 98%. You can look at Instagram on your desktop, but most of the time we're looking at it on a mobile device. So think about that when you're creating content, because it is going to be on quite a small screen, potentially only a couple of inches across. So if you've got lots of small text on there, stuff like that, think about that. Again, if that's relevant to your audience. If your audience is quite mature and their eyesight is not like it used to be, make sure you have either some large text or it's just pictorial. But always think about mobile, okay? Have that at the forefront of your brain when you're creating content for social media. What type of content then? Well, as this says, a good mixture of content. We've already talked about images, graphics, videos, text, articles, blogs, sales, all sorts of stuff like that. But what I would say is, first and foremost, you need to create content which definitely adds value to your audience. We all want to put content out there which sells what it is that we do, whether that's a product or a service. And I'm not saying you mustn't do that, but actually we must put out content that gets our audience to engage with us. I worked with a company who just do, they find people jobs. That's all they do. Recruitment. Couldn't find the word. They work in recruitment. All they did was post job after job after job. And they came to me and they said, Matt, we can't grow our audience. And I immediately said, it's because you're boring. And it really is. It's as simple as that. You have to mix that stuff up. People might jump on their social media channels and have a look and find a job. And then when they're done, all they're getting is job after job after job thrown at them. They're going to come off of that. LinkedIn was created for just people to find jobs. Put your CV up there, find a job. It's so much more than that now. Otherwise, LinkedIn wouldn't have survived. So you need to think about creating that nice mixture of content. Now think about how you can trigger emotions in people, okay? That's how you start to make memories, okay? So you have to trigger an emotion. Repeat an emotions. If it's repetitive and it causes an emotion in someone, it's going to trigger a memory. So that cheesy jingle you hear on the radio, that's an advert that annoys you every single time it comes on. It's just that repeat to fake. It's like the singing guy that does all the adverts for insurance. He annoys us. But when we think about getting insurance, who do we think of first? So it's that kind of stuff. You've got to trigger emotions in people to get them to remember you, okay? Now, we've already mentioned some stuff about behind the scenes or your staff. It's a good mixture of content, as well as, you know, this is who we are, this is what we do. This is the people that help us do that. Think about trending topics. You can go onto Twitter right now and it'll give you the top 5, top 10 trending topics that people are talking about. If that topic, of course, it's trending because it's popular and people are talking about it. If that's relevant to your business, why not join in that conversation? Don't try and shoehorn in your business related to the presidential election, for example. But if there's something that's really closely related, keep an eye on what is going on trending topics, because that will allow you then to join in with that conversation. I would suggest we need to try and be a little bit funny as well. Now, that's not in all of our bones, okay? But if you could be amusing, then people, you know, there's a lighter side to life. And I would certainly say that my life is certainly more amusing than it is serious. I'm a fed up adulting, let's be honest. But if you could put that amusing stuff out there, it's going to help. But you know, dad jokes totally allowed for my generation, definitely. The other thing that I've been working on a lot recently is working with influencers as well, okay? So you go and look at these people that have an audience around them. And for example, I'm working with a gift company at the moment, and they have these wonderful things they're putting out for Christmas. And we're reaching out to influencers, people with like, 10, 15, 20,000 followers on Instagram, and saying, look, if we send you some of our products, will you put up a post saying, oh, look what I received from XYZ company. Aren't they wonderful? They have to say it's gifted, or they have to say it's an advert and this money exchanged hands, but we're not doing anything secretive. But actually being in front of that audience, a potential audience of 10, 15, 20,000 people, someone using your product or using your service, is a brilliant way of getting that message out there fairly quickly. Your product or your service needs to be brilliant. Of course it does. Why wouldn't it be? You've created it, you're running that business. So don't be afraid to reach out to these people and get them to share that kind of stuff for you. Now, the types of content, there are, if you Google types of content for social media, you'll get 68 blogs that say 30 different types, 8 different types, 17 different types. Let me take you through some. And one of the most important ones is video, okay? Now, you don't have to commission a professional video company and pay them £5,000 to produce a 2-minute video for you. You can do that, and I know people do that on a fairly regular basis. But if you just want to get started, guess what? My mobile phone has a brilliant camera on it. Set up the right situation with decent lighting. If you've not got professional lighting, lighting through a window is the best thing. Don't stand in a room like I'm standing in right now, because it's quite echoey. I appreciate that. But you can think about being your own movie producer, and you can then edit and publish straight from your mobile phone. Okay, so video, we're no longer held back by this stuff. And you may not think that you want to put yourself in front of camera, that's fine. But if you've got a product that you create or you sell, you can do videos of that as well. Do videos of your staff, do videos of the stuff you do in your spare time. But videos work really well on social media, okay? Certainly a platform like Facebook, certainly a platform like Instagram. And TikTok is just video based as well. So again, if that's where your audience is, you need to be thinking about that. We can also use user-generated content. People might already be posting online about they've bought your product or they use your service. You can repurpose that content and share it, because you're not forcing people to do that. They've done that of their own account. You can then take that stuff and you can reshare that. Stories. I'm a big fan of Instagram stories. You can create those stories, and they'll also be shared across to your Facebook business page as well if you connect the two up. They last 24 hours, and it's where I get my best engagement. For me, in my business, that's what works best for me. So I will create Instagram stories on a daily basis, several every single day. And it's as simple as either just looking into the camera and recording a piece and telling people what I'm up to taking a photo of something, adding a hashtag, adding a location, putting a time on there. You can put the weather on there. You can put a silly little graphic. You can do whatever you like. But they, hands down for me, get the best amount of engagement. So think about creating stories for your business. They disappear in 24 hours. It's like telling the story. It's like having that vlog going on a constant basis. Of course, you can create blogs. You've got that content on your website. It's taken you maybe an hour to write that blog. Why would you not then share that several times on your social media channels? I think it makes so much sense to do that. If you're sharing it at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, next week, share it at Wednesday afternoon, because you'll probably have a different audience that sees that stuff. But repurpose that content. You can run polls on various different social media channels, certainly on Twitter, certainly on Instagram. You can create podcasts. As I say, we could go on and on about the different types of content. Just do a quick Google and it'll tell you. You can go live. You can create webinars, just like we're doing right now. There's 100 people watching this webinar. That's fantastic. Client testimonials. All I would say is, don't do too much text, okay? If you really want to kind of dig down deep, write that blog on your website, and you can drive people towards it, okay? But just get that little teaser, that little headline that gets them to think, okay, well, that's interesting. I want to read a bit more, and then point them towards your website. Just beware, when we do use website links, the algorithms do go a little bit against us. Again, I'm not telling you not to do that kind of stuff, okay? You have to put links and you have to drive traffic to your website. That's what we want to do. But Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, they will show that post to less people, because you're driving people away from their website. I'm not saying don't do it, but just be realistic about how well that actually works. This was one of my favorite tweets I see of all time. As you can see on the date of it, it was back to 2013. It goes back to the Super Bowl, which is the American football world final that's held just in America. I love American football, but they had a power cut during the 2013 Super Bowl final, okay? And the agency that look after Oreo cookies just put this really simple tweet out straight away. Power out, no problem. You can still dunk in the dark. It just went absolutely ballistic. So it's just kind of thinking on your feet about different types of content, being aware of creating content on a very regular basis. On to social selling. This is a tricky one, this. Social selling is the art of using social media to find, connect, and understand and nurture sales prospects. And there's the word there, prospects. It's a way to develop meaningful relationships, okay, with potential clients. So you're the first company or that first brand that they think of when they're ready to buy. I'm going to get onto it in a second. I was nearly going to move into it just then, but you know, you need to be quite subtle about this. Yes, it can absolutely work sometimes where you put some stuff out and people go, that's brilliant. That's exactly what I need. But generally speaking, we need to get people to like, know, and trust us. So we have to do this constant drip feed of really useful posts, really posts that add something to it that I learn from, and I learn and begin to trust who it is that you are as a business. This is a book that I've read. This guy in the background is a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. He is a bit of a social media guru, runs an enormous agency in New York. He just gets people. And that's what I want to emphasize here. It's about human beings. You can learn the technical side of stuff, or you can get someone to help you with the technical stuff, but you need to know that you're talking to individuals on the internet. Now, this book is really good about selling on social media. And he loves a sporting analogy, and it's about jab, 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 and then all of a sudden the right hook. So the jabs are the little bits of information you're giving to your clients, the bits that you're helping them with, those how-to tutorials that you might have put together. And occasionally you come in with that big right hook and you say, here is the thing that I want to sell you. Okay, so you can kind of do that sort of stuff. But remember, again, we come back to this, would you follow you? If all you do is sell, you'll annoy people, and guess what? It's really easy for them to unfollow you. Mr. Vaynerchuk tells a very good story about the 19-year-old dude move. Someone follows you. It happens all the time on LinkedIn. You get a new connection on LinkedIn, and straight away they send you a message and try and get you to sign up for something or try and sell you something. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. I hate it. It doesn't work for me. It might work for you. It might work in your industry. But it's like the 19-year-old guy moving straight, walking into a bar, going up to this girl and saying, hey, can I have your number? He's not bought her a drink. He's not had a conversation. He's not got to know her. You need to do all those things with your clients. So don't do the 19-year-old dude move. In my advice, it might work for you in your business, but I would recommend there's better ways of doing it. You might have seen this kind of slide before, but yes, it's absolutely a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And like having someone in the showroom with you, it's really easy for them to walk away on social media. So if you go in too hard, you could scare them away. Nurture them, make sure they're on your side, bring value to them and take them along the journey with you. And don't be afraid to spend a little bit of money on advertising, okay? The great thing about these websites is that they have so much information about us as users. I can go onto Facebook and I can target a man between the age of 40 and 50 who's interested in cars, and I can advertise Mercedes-Benz to him. I can go on and look at people who are aged between 18 and 25 and talk to them about their student accommodation. We can be very specific with the advertising. And it's not like advertising on any other realm. If you put it in a newspaper, a magazine, on the radio, on the TV, we hit everybody. On here, if I spend and I wanted my advert to be seen by 40 to 50-year-old men, that's all that Facebook will show it to, we hope. But I'm fairly confident that that's exactly what they do. But yeah, you don't have to go wasting money putting your advert in front of people that aren't going to be interested in the product or the service that you're offering. And then we have to start to look at measuring those results. Now, remember, what were your goals? It's time to revisit those. And there's two kind of results I want you to look at, okay? So it's your ongoing analytics, it's your overall channels, how well are you doing? And then you might have some campaign-focused stuff. Look at those metrics as well. Have we got a campaign in place for Christmas? How well is that doing? compared to my overall statistics as well. What should you be measuring? Well, if you want to measure awareness, then the metric you need to look at is the one called reach. All right. Now, reach is how far you're spreading. And if you are a senior member of management and you want to report some nice figures to the boss, then you would use the reach figure. But it's a bit of a vanity metric. And Facebook can literally count one person in reach if they scroll past your content. So what you really want to look at, what you really want to measure is engagement, okay? Look for the metrics around retweets, comments, likes, replies, and general participation. How many people are getting involved? How often are they getting involved? And what forms are they participating in? That's the engagement metric. That's the stuff that really matters. Those are the people that are involved. It's not the people that might see your stuff. It's the people that have definitely seen it and they've reacted to it. If your goal is to drive traffic to your website, of course, you can track the URL shares. You can look at having a Facebook pixel. I'm doing that with a client right now. We put the pixel on their website. We drive traffic from Facebook to that website, and we can see exactly how many people have gone through. Clicks and conversions, it's all about that. Are people moving through social media to your external site? We can use Google Analytics to look at that same sort of thing as well. Now, if your goal is to find advocates and fans, then track contributors and influencers, that kind of stuff. On Facebook groups, for example, you can actually get labeled as a top fan. Now, these are the people that you definitely need to nurture. When you're measuring, we have to have something to measure it against. Well, all you can do is do one set of measurements, and that's your baseline. That's your benchmark for future measurement. Obviously, you want to see some increasing growth in that, but if you do that first measurement, when you go into next month, and I would recommend looking at it monthly. If you can't, let's do it quarterly and see how well you've grown from the goals and the strategy that you've actually put in place. And we have to learn. We have to learn and we have to adapt. This stuff changes constantly. I am reading blogs from all the social media sites on a daily basis. Every day is a school day on social media. So review your measurement program. How are these metrics doing? Is there something you're missing? Or was there something that was unnecessary, something that was superfluous? If that stuff's not matching to your bottom line, it's not counting, it's not adding anything, just stop measuring it. Figure out what you can improve on. Do you need to make any more changes? And check back in with your goals that you set initially and make sure your new metrics are actually helping you achieve those goals, okay? Just make sure that you're always learning and always adapting, because this stuff will change constantly. Don't be afraid to adapt, all right? If your results are unremarkable, why not try something remarkable? Try something really different. Stand out from all of your other competitors in that field and be brave. I think that's where I'm going to leave it right now. I believe there's one or two questions coming in, so I'm going to hand back to Tara, and I think she's going to throw those questions at me.
Thank you, Matt. Definitely a load of good tips in there, and it has generated a few chat comments as well. Okay, so first question to you. Let you have a drink of tea before you answer.
Thank you very much.
And a breath. Okay, how do we ensure, this is from Ian Jones, how do we ensure we don't bore our audience by posting too much? Even gripping stuff can get boring.
Absolutely. It all depends on the audience, and it all depends on their reactions to your content. It's difficult to know without specifics, but it's like I said with the guy that runs the recruitment company. They posted job after job after job. They couldn't get their channels to grow. We mixed it up a little bit. They work in the hospitality sector, so we started putting out recipes and cocktails and stuff like that. So, you know, if you're seeing the engagement dropping on your channels and dropping on the content you're putting out there, it's definitely time to mix it up a little bit. And if you're worried about frequency, I would tend to try and go, and this is fairly bold, I tend to try and go daily if you can. If not, just keep a level of consistency. So give me 5 posts for the 7 days, give me 4 posts for the 7 days, but spread them out and be consistent. Don't post a bunch of stuff on one day, leave it 4 days, and then post a bunch of other stuff. try and spread that stuff out across the week. Again, this is why you need to have that content calendar in place. I hope that that helps.
What about conversation on there? So if you posed a question, how quickly should you kind of react to questions on there? Should it be seen that you're there listening and waiting and be very reactive?
That's a great question, actually. You need to set that precedent, because if you respond to someone at 11 o'clock at night and they then send another message 2 or 3 days later, they are going to expect a response at 11 o'clock. Well, you answered me the other day. Why aren't you answering me today? So maybe, and I see some service at some social media channels, certainly customer service ones, they'll tell you the hours that that channel is active between. So we're here from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. You know, set that precedent for people. I'm telling you to schedule. I told you to schedule stuff, absolutely, but be aware that people will respond to that scheduled post. So you may not need to be there to post it, but you might need to be there to respond to it. If it really is a matter of time, make sure you grab 5, 10, 15 minutes at the end of the day, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever time works best for you. Jump on your social media channels, check for notifications, respond at that time. You may then get some response from those responses, but hopefully within 1 or 2 responses, you can kind of answer that question or even make that sale. So that's kind of, again, it totally depends on your industry and what it is that you're doing, if you're selling a product or a service.
Really interesting question has come in from Jackie Watt. We work during school term time only. Our Facebook reach dropped dramatically after taking the summer off and not posting at all in this time. How can we recover?
Oh, recover, that's a good question. Because yeah, you've gone against the algorithms there. I'll say you've gone against it. You know, Facebook have given us these algorithms. We have to play their game on their platform. The way to recover, I would suggest, is to try and put out some content and maybe reach out to people, getting them to get involved, asking them to share it. Can you get buy-in from the staff? Again, I had this conversation with an organization yesterday. If you've got the staff to buy in and they can start to share it on their personal channels, I'm specifically talking about Facebook here, then you know their friends of friends will see this sort of stuff as well. But yeah, you have to put a little bit of impetus into getting that going again. Maybe a small amount of money, I'm talking 10, 20, 30 pounds. You can advertise to people that already like your Facebook page. So you can kind of kickstart it with that. But lesson learned, hopefully, when you're off during those school holidays, put some level of scheduling posts in place to keep you out. You have to play the algorithm game. We have to make sure there is a level of consistency that we keep up.
Jeremy Taylor has put a comment about, can we do a poll of the audience to ask when they are looking at LinkedIn over the weekend? Jeremy positions posts at around 5 to 6 p.m. on a Sunday, but it would be good to check if others are looking at their business social media on a Sunday before going back to work. I'm not sure if we can add that to our next step, Marcus. We might see. But yeah, Jeremy, let's see what we can do for you to put that question out. Another question's just come in. I hear the issue raised a lot about people posting too often. This has come from Chris Bates, by the way. My issue is that I post too little. Social media just doesn't come naturally to me, even though I have great content, images and video. Scheduling seems the way to go. I've tried Buffer, but it was very glitchy. Would you recommend another scheduler or a different approach altogether?
Oh, lots of questions. If you don't like Buffer, try Hootsuite, and that's Suite, S-U-I-T-E. Has a little owl as its logo. It's a bit clunkier, if you ask me. Its UX is not as good looking, but I think it's possibly a little less buggy than Buffer. But yeah, that scheduling side of things is really vital, because we have businesses to run. You know, we are busy people. So sitting down for half an hour per week and scheduling content to go out consistently across the week is probably the quickest way to solve that issue. If you've got the content, brilliant. You're one step ahead of most people, because most people are going, oh crikey, I don't know what to say. So if you've got the content, schedule it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and just again be aware that you may get some responses to that. So be present on there. And if you say it's not natural for you, get some outside help. Ask somebody who's good at comms, good at PR, good at communication, and maybe get some advice from them. If you're passionate about what it is that you do, that can really shine through. And I would recommend letting your passion come out.
Brilliant. Okay, now we're going to move, because this has all been about social media and online, we're going to try something new this week. We're going to use Slido to kind of do some live feedback. On screen in a minute, you will see a QR code and a website address for Slido, which is an interactive polling platform. And as you can see, the event code is 572424. If you point your phone or camera to the QR code on the screen, a pop-up will appear asking you to open the browser, which takes you directly to our 3 questions we're going to ask. If you would prefer, you can open a new browser and go to slido.com, then enter the event code. As you enter your responses to the questions, and then press enter, the next question will come up. But you can see the responses that you're all making is all coming up on the screen. So it kind of interacts directly with the screen. So we're just looking at the first question at the moment up on the screen. There, don't be shy. We do want your feedback. And it just shows that it can work as well. You can be quite interactive as well. And then the next question is, how would you rate communications in the format of this webinar? Again, we want feedback on our webinar. That's great. Great to see everybody using it. So then, there we go. Now I like that graphic, seeing it slide up and down. And then the final question is, we're coming to the end of this autumn webinar series. What topics would you like to see us cover in future webinars in the new year? What's quite key to you? Be different. Funding's coming in December, so we're definitely going to be doing that one. Going to do have someone from Innovate UK talk, and also just go through some tips. It's brilliant. That's really, really helpful. Thank you.